a program for all America. Brought to you by Crest Toothpaste with Fluorostan, the toothpaste that stops soft spots from turning into cavities. And by extra-rich liquid Prel shampoo. Now here he is, Mr. This Is Your Life himself, Ralph Edwards.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. First, we want to thank all of you on behalf of Thomas Orley of Budapest, Hungary, our principal subject of last week, and the International Rescue Committee for your generous response to our appeal for the Hungarians. Now, accurate figures are not yet available. However, indications are that to date you have sent in over $250,000. Now, if you haven't already sent in your dollar, remember it's not too late to do it. The address again is Thomas, Post Office Box 2, Times Square, New York City. And thank you again. Now, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are just outside the entrance to the NBC studios in Burbank, California, preparing to unfold the story of a man of whom America should be very proud. In World War II, he fought with the heroic 442nd Combat Team, the most decorated military unit for its size and length of service in the history of the United States Army. And today, he is regarded as the outstanding Japanese-American citizen of this country. Now, we have gone to some elaborate preparation to fool this gentleman tonight. Right now, he's crossing the street on the way to a meeting, so he thinks. He's with our own escort, Don Momberg, and another gentleman whom you'll meet just in a moment. We've had them over to Saley's restaurant across the street, and they're now coming over here. The three of them. Ladies and gentlemen, we have said this before, but tonight we say again, don't miss this program. Come right on up here, if you will, please, fellas. Good to see you. Hi, Don. Hi there, Joy. Who's this, Mike Masaoka? Hello, Mike. How are you? My name's Ralph Edwards. Good to see you. I don't know if you've heard of me or not,
yes,
Mike. Come on over here. You're a Washington representative of the Japanese-American Citizens League, aren't you, Mike?
That's right.
Yeah, well, now, Mike, right now, you're on television, coast to coast, because tonight, Mike Masaoka, a truly great American, this is your life.
Mine?
Your... George, come here. George Inagaki. With a pleasure, Al. Thank you, George, for helping us surprise Mike Masaoka. Now, Mike, will you please accompany me to our studio where a lot of happy surprises await you as we relive the life of a man who is considered by his people somewhat in the light of a Moses who has led them to the promised land of first-class American citizenship. And while we're on our way, here's Bob Warren with some thoughts on a healthier, happier New Year for all of us. Come on, Mike.
Thank you, Ralph. How many new cavities will your family get in 1957? Well, the answer to that question is really up to you. You see, it's 3 to 1. You've got soft spots in your teeth right now. Weak areas where cavities usually start, but it's not too late to do something about it. Change to Crest, the toothpaste that actually stops soft spots from turning into cavities. Watch. Cavities often begin in tiny soft spots that regular toothpaste pass by. Crest hardens those soft spots, stops soft spots from turning into cavities. At the same time, Crest strengthens the entire tooth against decay. That's because of Crest's own special fluoride called Fluorostan. And flavor, Crest tastes wonderful, sweetens your breath, and brightens your teeth. So you start the new year right. Start your family brushing regularly with Crest, the toothpaste that stops soft spots from turning into cavities.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Mike Masaoka. Come on in. You see who we have here? A color guard, Mike, made up of your World War II buddies in the 442nd. There's Sergeant Shaw Sakamoto, your first sergeant over there, Royal Manaka, Sergeant James Mitsumori, and Sergeant Bill Fujimori. The whole gang. Is that right, Mike? Well, come on, pal. Sit down over here. Thank you, gentlemen. We're proud of you, and this could very well be your story tonight, for, in a way, it is. Sit here, please, in our Crest Chair of Honor. Mike, you're a Nisei, aren't you?
That's right.
Come right over here and tell us what a Nisei is.
Well, a Nisei is an American citizen of Japanese ancestry.
The voice that someday is to speak so powerfully in behalf of your people, Mike, is but a thin wail, October 15th, 1915, the day you're born in Fresno, California. The son of Eijiro and Haruya Masaoka, the fourth of 8 children. With what name were you christened, Mike?
Masaru.
Your parents were not American citizens. What was the reason for this?
Under our laws, they were prohibited from becoming citizens.
You, of course, having been born here, are an American citizen, as are all your brothers and sisters.
In 1917, when Mike was 2, our family moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, where Father opened a little fish and produce market.
Who that is, Mike?
Sounds like my brother.
Here from Atherton, California, your oldest brother, Joe Grant Masaoka. When Mike was only 6 or 7, no, I guess he was about 8 or 9 by this time, after school, he used to help your father at the market with the rest of the family, didn't he, Joe?
That's right. And he protected our family interest, too, Ralph.
How's that?
Where'd you get the pictures?
Oh, we got a lot of pictures, boy. If begged, borrowed, and stolen, you'll have them all back, but you'll see a lot that'll bring back memories tonight.
Well, in those days, when a policeman walked by our fruit stand and helped himself to an apple, we were just too scared to do anything about it. But one day, a big policeman came by and picked an apple and started to walk off when Mike says, 5 cents, please, and the man paid up, too.
Even in those days, Mike, you'd stand up for your own rights as well as the rights of others. Thank you, Brother Joe Masaoka. You'll see Mike a little later.
Okay?
How you doing, Mike?
Brings memories back.
It's October 14th now in 1924. You're 9. Your father, Eijiro, is struck and killed by an automobile. So your mother has to run the little family market, helped by all of you. And when you're 12, you join the Boy Scouts.
And that's where my brother got his name, Mike.
Now, Mike, your younger brother, Ike of Los Angeles. Here is Ike Masaoka. Just how did your brother get the name of Mike?
Well, Ralph, the fellows had a hard time pronouncing his Japanese name, Masaru, so the scoutmaster put a lot of names in a hat, and he drew one of them. And the name he drew was Mike.
You should have seen some of the other names.
Your given name was Akira, wasn't it?
That's right. But the fellows thought as long as there was a Mike in the family, there also should be an Ike. So now we're Mike and Ike.
Okay, thank you, Ike Masaoka. You'll see Mike a little later. In 1934, you entered the University of Utah, and 2 years later, your mother and the rest of the family moved to California, opening a little market in Santa Monica. But you remain at the university, don't you, Mike?
Yes.
As its finest debater, you win highest honors in intercollegiate contests. How did you work your way through the University of Utah?
I used to hash. Worked in a chop suey joint.
Remember the name of it?
State Noodle House. State Street.
December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor, and that night your Japanese ancestry is brought home to you sharply. As a member of the Japanese American Citizens League, you're making a speech in a Nebraska city. What happened then?
I was thrown into jail.
Your United States Senator, Elbert Thomas, knowing of your complete loyalty, wires and secures your release.
Shortly after Pearl Harbor, the Army authorities ordered the evacuation of all West Coast Japanese Americans to the interior.
Well, you figure who that is, Mike? He's now a good friend of yours, former director of the Enemy Alien Control Unit of the Department of Justice, in charge of the internment program, flown here from New York City, noted attorney Edward J. Ennis.
You surprised?
Mr. Ennis, I know Mike is real pleased to see you. The Army felt the evacuation program to be a necessary defense measure, didn't they, Mr. Ennis?
Yes, Ralph. They were seeking maximum security on the West Coast. And of course, this involved a terrible plight for 110,000 Japanese Americans uprooted from their homes and jobs and subjected to losses of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Now, you, Mike, urged cooperation with this program, even though it meant your own family would be evacuated to a relocation center. Can you tell us why, briefly?
Well, part of it was that we felt that this would be our contribution to the national security of our country. and that complete cooperation on our part in such a difficult maneuver would illustrate to the American people and dramatize our complete loyalty. We were willing to give up our homes, our associations, our friends and businesses in order to help our country's defense.
Ralph, this was a decision of great moral courage, because it was very difficult for these people to understand that the only alternative to the terrible alternative of cooperation with evacuation was forcible expulsion by military force.
Thank you, Mr. Edward J. Ennis of New York City. So the spring of 1942 sees the bloodless evacuation of 110,000 people of Japanese ancestry to 10 relocation centers, and among them your own family, Mike.
It wasn't easy for Mother to pack up our belongings, close and leave our business behind, and see the family move to a relocation center.
Yes, here is your brother Tad Masaoka from Washington, D.C. And the rest of your family's here too, Mike. Here's your mother, Mrs. Haruya Masaoka from Atherton, California. And your sister from Chicago, Mrs. Kyoko Ito. You call her Coach. And your brother, Hank of Los Angeles. Here's Hank. There they are. Come on, sit down over here. And your other sister kind of ill tonight, but she's watching in there. You weren't sent to a relocation center, were you, Hank?
No, if you could find a job in the interior before evacuation, you could take it. I found a job in Nebraska. Ike here was drafted before Pearl Harbor, and Mike wasn't on the coast, so wasn't evacuated either.
Well, what happened to the fruit and vegetable market, Mrs. Ito?
Well, we decided to sell the store and only got about 25% of its value.
See. What were the relocation centers like, Coach, Ms. Ito?
It wasn't like home, but they tried to make us comfortable. There were barbed wires and searchlights at night and guards.
Where were you, Tad?
I was in Manzanar along with Mom and Joe, Coke, and my brother Ben.
We'll hear about Ben later. What happened to you at Manzanar?
Well, there were some troublemakers in camp, and we had some difficulties there. I was assaulted a couple of times, and finally we were moved to another camp in Death Valley, California.
And Mrs. Masaoka, as Mike's mother, you felt Mike was right, and you had to go peacefully and prove you were a good American. Yes. Well, thank you, Hank, Mrs. Ito, Tad, and Mrs. Masaoka. Along here with Joe and Ike. You all get together later at the party Crest has arranged in Mike's honor at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, where all of the family's been staying there, Mike.
When did they come here?
Oh, they've been here since before New Year's because we wanted them to have New Year's Day unto themselves, you see, so we met a little early today. They'll tell you all about it at the party. Your own role, Mike, as a soldier in the heroic Nisei 442nd Combat Team of World War II, we'll learn in a few moments. But right now, let's look in on this beautiful girl.
Hello, I'm Joanne Jordan, and this is New Lilt Home Permanent with Squeeze Bottle Magic. Its magic new squeeze bottle makes New Lilt the fastest, the easiest home permanent ever. Here, let me prove it to you. With any other leading home permanent, it's dip, dab, down, up, again and again. With New Lilt, it's so much faster and easier. Just squeeze, it's a breeze. And what about the saturation you need for longer lasting curls? This other leading home permanent didn't even saturate these curls made of blotting paper. As for Lilt, it saturates instantly, more evenly and thoroughly. It's this perfect saturation with Lilt that gives you lovelier curls that last and last and last till you cut them off. Isn't it wonderful? A squeeze, easy way to curls that last till cut. Get New Lilt Home Permanent.
Thank you very much, Joanne Jordan. Now back to This Is Your Life, Mike Masaoka, American citizen of Japanese ancestry. Here in 1942, Mike, you not only labor tirelessly to better the lot of the Japanese Americans in the relocation centers, but you worked to open selective service to American citizens of Japanese descent, which had been closed since Pearl Harbor. Why did you feel this was important, Mike?
I thought we had to have a record, even if it had to be purchased at the cost of blood, to prove beyond all doubt that we Americans of Japanese ancestry were real Americans.
You spearhead the drive outside the government that in January 1943 sees selective service reopened to the second-generation Japanese Americans, the Nisei. And you, Mike, are the very first Nisei to volunteer for active duty. Well, look who we have. Yes, Mike, your lovely wife, Etsu Masaoka.
Before Mike reported to the Army, he took time off on February 14, 1943, to marry me.
Yes, you first met Mike in 1941, didn't you, Mrs. Masaoka?
Yes, but a good part of Mike's courtship was carried on by mail while I was at a relocation center at Hart Mountain near Cody, Wyoming. Finally, we were married in Salt Lake City.
In 1943, your brother Ike is already in the Army, Mike, and 3 of your other brothers now volunteer, Tad, Hank, and your brother Ben. With 5 of you in the Army, why do you all decide that Brother Joe should remain a civilian, Mike?
He was the older one. Someone had to take care of Mother.
February 1943, the War Department decides to activate an all-Nisei, except for some of the officers, combat unit, the 442nd Combat Team. Other Japanese Americans volunteer to fight in the Pacific against Japan, the home of their ancestors. You, Tad, Ben, and Ike are assigned to the 442nd. Your brother Hank joins the 13th Paratroopers. And Mother Masaoka feels the pang of all mothers as she watches her sons go off to war.
Both overseas, and while we were both still in the States, Mike did a tremendous morale-boosting job for the 442nd.
That's the voice of an officer all you men admired and loved, right, Mike? Now Brigadier General retired. He was the colonel and commander of the 442nd Combat Team. Here from Columbus, Georgia's General Charles W. Pence. General Pence, what about this morale-boosting work of Mike Masaoka's in the States?
Well, the boys would receive letters from their parents in relocation centers that make them feel very bad, and they would say, well, why should we fight when they're treating our families this way? And Mike would talk to them and convince them that they had to be just a little better than the average American and prove to the people that they were wrong in judging them as disloyal.
To go overseas with the 442nd, Mike, the men had to first pass a marksmanship test.
I'm not being immodest, but that rascal never would have passed it without my help.
You know who that is, Mike?
My old mess sergeant and buddy.
Your bunkmate and closest pal in the 442nd, former senator in the Hawaiian legislature and ex-sergeant here from Honolulu, Senator Joe Itagaki. How did you help Mike in that marksman's test, Senator Itagaki?
Well,
The colonel's here.
poor Mike couldn't even hit the base of a target. Remember, Mike? Finally, in passing his marksmanship test, I took Mike's rifle, did the shooting for him. Then the lieutenant came along and said, Itagaki, I thought you finished shooting. I said, oh, yes, sir. I'm only testing Mike's wind gauge.
See? And so you got overseas that way. June 26, 1944. The 442nd Combat Team first goes into action near Belvedere, Italy, in the Rome Arno campaign. Its motto is, go for broke. What does that mean, Mike?
It means to shoot the works, to give all in one great effort.
From the beginning, the 442nd wins a reputation as a unit that never takes a backward step in combat.
Mike was not only a great public relations officer overseas, but truly courageous soldier.
It's been 11 years since you heard that voice, Mike. He was your company commander, flown here from Ravenna, Kentucky, where he now owns the Hawkins Garage in West Irving, is Captain Lee B. Hawkins. Captain Hawkins, wasn't it one of Mike's duties to let the people back in America know what the 442nd was doing?
Yes, Ralph. Mike got his stores from the battlefield, under fire. Above the call of duty, Mike volunteered for many dangerous missions, one of which was to help get supplies to some of our frontline men who had been trapped.
The 442nd crosses the Arno and then is sent to France in the Vosges Mountains. Here your brother Ben is killed in combat, Mike. At the war's end, the soldiers of the 442nd had received over 5,500 individual distinguished awards, including 3,600 Purple Hearts and 7 distinguished citations. With you, Mike, winning, among other decorations, the Bronze Star, the Italian Military Cross of Valor, and the Legion of Merit. Your brothers win 3 Purple Hearts, and Brother Ike also gets the Silver Star. A great gang of men, right? General, come on in here where we can see you.
Ralph, it was one of the finest group of fighting men any officer ever commanded. As General Stilwell is reported to have said, they bought a good chunk of America with their blood.
Thank you, General Charles W. Pence, former Senator Joe Itagaki, and Captain Lee B. Hawkins, 3 courageous soldiers of the 442nd Combat Team. In 1945, you returned to civilian life, Mike. As a legislative director of the Japanese American Citizens League, lead a drive that results in the passage in Congress of the Evacuation Claims Act of 1948. To date, the government has paid over $25 million of the claims filed by Japanese Americans for losses during the evacuation. In 1950, you're selected by the Nisei of America as the Nisei of the quarter century. In 1952, to a great extent as a result of your efforts, Congress decides for the first time in our history that the Japanese aliens can become citizens. And under this act, your own mother is one of the thousands permitted to become a citizen, and she does. Your story, Mike, wouldn't be complete without the presence of your pretty little daughter, Midori. And here is Midori. Oh, isn't she just like a little doll? Ah. Yes, indeed. This is your life, Mike Masaoka. And nothing better sums it up than part of the creed, Mike, of the Japanese Americans which you yourself wrote. Because I believe in America, I pledge myself to do honor to her at all times, to obey her laws, to respect her flag, to defend her against all enemies, to actively assume my duties and obligation as a citizen without any reservations, in the hope I may become a better American in a greater America. In a few moments, Mike, we'll look into your future. Right now, here's an important message from Prel Shampoo.
Once upon a time, 3 men were walking in the park when suddenly they stopped and turned to admire the scenery, which was lovely.
It gleams.
It glows.
It's radiantly alive.
Yes, her hair has the radiantly alive look every man likes and every woman wants, thanks to new magical Liquid Prel shampoo. Liquid Prel is a new, gloriously different shampoo that's extra rich. See how it flows? Not too thin, not too thick. Each emerald clear drop shampoos radiant beauty into your hair. You can see Liquid Prel is extra rich. That's why it leaves your hair looking radiantly alive. And the woman who knows how much radiantly alive hair means to her is the woman who shampoos with extra rich Liquid Prel.
Thank you very much, Bob. Mike, how do you feel about all this, pal?
Well, this is wonderful. I didn't expect it, and it's really too much.
Mike, just as we promised, let's take a look into your future. To begin with, Marshall Jewelers of New York City has custom designed this charm bracelet for your lovely wife, Etsu. And these, I'll leave them here, and we'll have them taken over to the party for you, Etsu. These handsome cufflinks and matching tie bar for you, Mike. We'll also see to it that you receive a complete film of tonight's program, along with this 16-millimeter Bell & Howell motion picture sound projector and camera that Bob Warren has just brought on. Now, Mike, we know how very much the physical, mental, and spiritual development of Nisei youth means to you. And so in your name, Crest, that's our sponsor, you know, with the help and cooperation of the famous DeVry Technical Institute in Chicago, one of America's foremost electronic centers, has arranged for the establishment and perpetuation of the Mike Masaoka Scholarship Award. Each year, for the next 5 years, the officers and trustees of the Japanese American Citizens League will select the Nisei youth who shows the most interest and aptitude in the field of electronics. You see, the boy will need no previous technical experience or advanced education. And what's more, after each boy completes his schooling, DeVry Tech's employment service will help him find a job or start him in his own business, a job that they've been doing for the past 25 years. That sound all right to you?
Wonderful.
Good. Now, while we're on the subject of education, Crest would like to help ensure at least a good start in college for young Midori here. Isn't she a beautiful little gal? Midori, did you see the charm bracelet, honey? Isn't that pretty? Well, we'd sort of like to see she gets a good start in college here, so we hope that you'll accept this check for $1,000 for her, you see? Finally, Mike, as a personal gift to you and your wife, Crest would like to present you. She'll finger the check, too. I think she shows she's very smart. We'd like to present you with something we know you've both wanted, but never felt you could afford. We can write another, but to save the work of that. With the compliments of Bill Finnegan, 7200 Beverly Boulevard in Los Angeles, California, here is the world's finest piano, the Mason and Hamlin. Something that you've wanted all You'll have a lot of pleasant hours playing there, won't you? This is your life. Mike Masaoka. May your devotion to your duty, your people, your country, and to God be a bright, shining example to anyone in America who doubts even for a fleeting second that the price of living here is too high for the value received.
All our guests on tonight's program were flown here by TWA, Trans World Airlines, who now fly the newest and most luxurious airplane in the skies. Fly the finest. Fly TWA Super G Constellation.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful night for us. We hope you've enjoyed it, too. Again, for Thomas Orley, we want to thank you for sending in all your donations for the Hungarian relief. We want to thank the Deeks, that wonderful fraternity of men throughout the country, for honoring the boys in a great fraternal way in New York last week. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the March of Dimes opens its annual drive today. Give generously, won't you, for the thousands of children for whom the Salk polio vaccine came too late. Give to the March of Dimes. Be with us again next week when This Is Your Life brings you a life story of cheer and joy in the face of what to most of us would be insurmountable reversals. See you next week. Good night.
This Is Your Life is a Ralph Edwards production, produced by Axel Gruenberg and directed by Richard Gottlieb. This Is Your Life has been presented by Extra Rich Liquid Prel Shampoo. And by Crest Toothpaste with Floristan, the toothpaste that stops soft spots from turning into cavities. Crest has been commended by Parents Magazine and granted the Good Housekeeping seal. Get Procter & Gamble's Crest with Floristan for your family. Be sure to watch the Loretta Young Show next Sunday night over most of these same stations.